Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Still trying to figure some of this stuff out. So, not sure where my chat is. Let's try something here. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to be watching the chat through the actual live stream. I'm like streaming through OBS, and usually you can see the chat, but I forgot how, so. All right. So thanks for showing up, everybody. Thanks for watching. Today I'm going to be reintroducing the 5 ways, which is my personal philosophy of lucid dreaming and or lucidity. More of a philosophy of lucidity, because I think these principles can be used across pretty much everything in life, and specifically anything that's related to raising your awareness of any kind, whether that be spiritual or physical, mental, whatever, emotional. But specifically, we're going to be talking about in regards to lucid dreaming, because that's what I do. And so we're going to get into it. On the screen, you should see a graphic that has a big circle in the middle and 4 hexagons around the edges. And this structure is intentional. Awareness is basically everything in lucid dreaming. It's like, you know, it's kind of almost like I don't know, it's like, I can't think of a metaphor right now, but it's everything, but it's also not everything at the same time. Because, you know, you could describe all of the 5 ways as just aspects of awareness. You could say that every part of lucid dreaming is just aspects of awareness, because lucid dreaming is basically awareness. But there's a lot of, you know, caveats or technicalities or little details that you get into after a while. You know, just telling somebody to be aware during your dreams, that doesn't really work most of the time. You actually have to do a specific practice or some kind of specific technique. You can't just tell somebody, yeah, just know that you're dreaming. That's lucid dreaming. Just know that you're dreaming. That's, you know, for some people that I've seen that work passively, where I'm not telling somebody a lucid dream, but I'm telling them about it, and then they'll have a lucid dream that night. I've heard that happen quite a bit. So just the thought or kind of trigger of awareness is enough. And that's one of the primary points of the 5 ways, is each one of these avenues or aspects of the 5 ways, each way can be a way on its own. However, the ideal setup is to do them all together, right? So there are certain techniques that will touch on individual aspects, or just like one way, right? Most of the techniques would be categorized under awareness and intention. Maybe some under willpower or expectation, but we're going to get into that. So to start with, my thesis or the idea behind this whole thing is the practice of lucid dreaming can be complex and disorienting. Many of those practicing lucid dreaming find that methods or techniques of lucid dreaming are far from one size fits all, right? So one technique will, you know, one person will say, this worked amazing for me, you should do it. And so somebody else does it and it doesn't work for them at all, right? So you find after a while that, you know, even though mild, M-I-L-D, mnemonic induced lucid dream, that technique is the most popular technique, but there are some people where that technique just does not work for them. You know, or maybe it works for them, but not well enough. Maybe there's something else that'll work better. So continuing on, illuminating core functions of lucid dreaming can assist in finding the mechanisms that work best for them. Okay, so there's core functions of lucid dreaming. All right, and I'm going to illuminate them so that it's easier to find the mechanisms that work best for those core functions. So essentially, you know, okay, this is how lucid dreaming works. Then you can figure out what you can actually do to make it work. You know, to do those things that work. These 5 ways of lucid dreaming, illustrated in conceptual terms, are, in my view, the core functions which establish a foundation for a lucid dreaming practice. It's my belief that these core functions will allow a lucid dreamer at any skill level to adapt techniques and exercises to fit their personal needs. So this is the primary motivation behind this, is that just telling everybody to do the mild technique is not realistic. There's a lot of people that quit lucid dreaming, and I suspect that with most hobbies, people will try it out for a little bit and they may not actually pick it up. That's true, I think, for everything. And there's a small number of people that will do it for a while, and even smaller number of people that will make it part of their lifestyle, right? And make it part of their identity as a person. So whoever you are, whatever your approach is, this will work for you. You don't need to be super hardcore for this to work. Also, it's not necessarily for beginners. It can be used at every level. Hey, Indigo. Hi, Irving. Cranky. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate that. And I'm going to walk through this for about, however long it takes, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then we're going to take question and answers, and that'll just go however long it goes. I set the event for 30 minutes. And so, that's kind of how long I expect it'll take to go through this and answer any questions specifically about this. And then we can just open up for general discussion. Okay, so I want to start with awareness because that is the biggest topic. It has the most kind of going on. I've got a document opened up behind this image that I've got on the screen here. And under awareness, we have what I call subtypes. Now, each one of these other hexagons has kind of a short summary. There wasn't enough room for the awareness one, so I'm just going to say it. I have a conceptual definition and an analogy that I use for these. There is no written guide yet. I have a Google Doc, but it's not exactly downloadable. It's also not necessarily a guide. So this hasn't been turned into a guide yet. I will be turning it into a guide over the next, basically, I'm going to be doing a video series where this is the introduction. And then over the next couple months, I'm going to be doing videos on each of these 5 ways, right? So breaking it down and then also showing how do you actually use them? What techniques actually correspond to these ways? And, how do you actually use this? Okay. So, but starting with awareness, I want to get into we're just going to summarize it mostly today. And awareness, my definition, arguably the single most important aspect of lucid dreaming. This tool is used in all aspects of life as a foundation for creating purpose and focusing action. So, awareness, it's a very broad term, can be applied to almost everything. But, in terms of lucid dreaming, an analogy that I'll use is find the balance between focus, active awareness, and relaxation, passive awareness. So lucid dreaming is a struggle to equalize those two attributes of awareness. And when someone is able to do that, all of the different ways, all of the 5 ways are strengthened. Awareness is the central way of the 5. And without strong awareness, the others will suffer. So, like I said, you could use a single way. You could use confidence or expectation or intention or willpower alone to have lucid dreams, but they all work together, and awareness is that central piece. If you don't have awareness, then it's going to be more difficult. And there's some aspects of awareness that if you don't have those, then it's going to be really tricky. So I have some subtypes here: attentional awareness, situational awareness, memory awareness, and criticality awareness. So each one of these awareness is what I would call a subtype of awareness. And it's essentially everything that we use in lucid dreaming to cause a lucid dream. For example, attentional awareness is a kind of focused awareness where you could see that, paying attention to specific things, like in reality checks. That would be kind of how that plays out. Situational awareness, that's awareness of the space that you're in. Again, you could do reality checks, all-day awareness, sporadic awareness technique. Those are approaches for kind of situational awareness. SSILD, senses-induced lucid dream, is another kind of situational awareness. Memory awareness, I call this awareness in time. So being able to kind of look back in time to previous dreams. This is kind of a key to LaBerge's approach to lucid dreaming that works for most people. And that's the mnemonic induction technique, mild. And for memory, this is, dream journaling, again, reality checks, again, all day awareness, sporadic awareness technique, wake back to bed, mild. So for each one of these aspects of awareness, I've got techniques and exercises that kind of correspond to it. And you can use those specific exercises to build that particular way, right? So over time, one should be able to figure out which of the 5 ways is weakest for them and be able to strengthen it, or which one is strongest for them and be able to lean into it and use it more. Finally, there's the criticality awareness, and I call this awareness of mind, awareness of body, right? So again, there's more reality check, awareness techniques. Awareness of mind includes DEILD, DEILD. Awareness of body includes the cycle adjustment technique, wake initiated lucid dream. So again, like these different aspects of awareness, there's techniques and exercises that correspond to them. And each one of the exercises and techniques will strengthen that particular aspect. So that's awareness. It encompasses a lot of what people in lucid dreaming talk about. The majority of lucid dreaming techniques and exercises that are talked about online and in books are awareness-based techniques, and primarily mental techniques, right? So it's not necessarily using the body or physical manipulation. It's primarily mental, specifically around memory. So maybe that's the way a lot of people work. Maybe that works for a lot of people, but maybe for some people it doesn't. And that's what this is for people. It's like, well, maybe, those are fine, but maybe something else works better for me. So the number 2, and I have these, I'm going to be listing these off in kind of order of importance. We're going to go to the top left where intention is. It says, if we're in a ship on the ocean of consciousness, intention is the rudder. So over the years, people have created a lot of analogies for intention. I think one of the famous ones is shooting an arrow from a bow. It's used a lot in the East, where you're firing and forgetting. Like, you're shooting that arrow, it's in the air and then it lands somewhere, right? And the better you get at it, the more accurate you get. But when the arrow's in the air, you're not controlling it, right? The only time you control it is when you first fire it, and then everything else kind of happens to you. The subtypes I have here are perspective memory and purpose. Perspective memory is kind of a clearly defined, mapped out aspect that relates to intention. Purpose is more kind of conceptual, right? But the thing about intention is that it's not just perspective memory. There's something else there. There's a kind of willpower, or you're exercising your will in some way to set an intention, and there's some kind of motivating factor where the intention is being set. So that's why I include purpose. For perspective memory, we've got a lot of different exercises for that. For purpose, I put in, for just to give you kind of a sneak peek into what I'm looking at here. And I'll just zoom in on this so you can see it better. I have the way, a definition, analogy, it's subtype, and then subtype in action. So in action for purpose would be Tholi's combined technique. The reason why I do that is because the only way to really strengthen your intention and your willpower is to use it. And so, what better way to use it than with a lucid dreaming technique? So, for example, in LaBerge's book, Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming, in the chapter that includes mild, he has an exercise where you plan out triggers, memory triggers during the day, where you're going to do a reality check. So, in this particular case, the perspective memory in action is perspective memory triggers and mild, because that is what that involves, right? Tholi's is more intention based. So you're setting an intention before you go to sleep, and you're doing reality checks during the day. That has proven to be an effective technique. Next, we have willpower. So that's going to be on the top right there. That's kind of in order of importance, number 3. Willpower is the will that changes, that creates, and that reforms reality as we know it. So, that's pretty dramatic, kind of a pretty dramatic definition, but, that's essentially, we don't really know what the will is. Why do some people seem to have more motivation or willpower than others? Why, what is free will? What is choice? These are questions that we don't really know. And so we kind of have to create metaphors and analogies, and have to kind of just try to describe it, right? Hey Venrix, you're in a lucid dream. That's cool. This will be available later. Yes. So if you want to watch this, I'm going to see if I can turn this into a video, but also, if you go to the YouTube channel and click under the live section, all the live streams are stored there. So, I've personally, I've put together a kind of metaphor that works for me, but it may not be, immediately obvious to other people. I've done a lot of kind of reading on psychology, and the thing is that this particular subject isn't really, it's hard to study. It's really hard to study. So You know, you'll find studies about willpower in science of habit forming. You'll find it in motivation, studies about motivation, studies about free will. But there isn't a lot of studies specifically about measuring willpower. You know, it's just that it's too complicated. It's not something that you can just directly measure. So you end up, having a lot of metaphors. So in terms of the subtype, I have motivation, and then the subtype in action is executing intentions, or having a goal orientation. So I'll just kind of show that real quick. And we're talking about executing intentions when we were going through the intention section. The more you exercise your will, the stronger it's going to get. If you can exercise it successfully, the stronger it's going to get. So, and then the goal orientation is basically, focusing on a particular goal that you're going to do in a lucid dream. So that's kind of, in order to be motivated to lucid dream, having a goal is probably the most important thing for motivation. That's something that you can focus on, something that you can work toward, right? And you can kind of focus everything else around that goal. So, goal orientation also has drawbacks. It's very powerful in that it will, you'll be able to, accomplish what you're looking to accomplish usually quicker. But on the other hand, it can give you some mixed results. So, there's a survey that came out of Iran on lucid dreaming that showed that a goal orientation actually increases your lucid dreaming frequency, but reduces the length of your lucid dreams. And that's a self-reporting survey, so that's not hard science, but it's an interesting look into that particular aspect. Next, we have expectation. So expectation is an accumulation of our experience that produces predictability and habits. So you may be starting to realize or starting to see that these things all tie together. I'm talking about especially intention, willpower, and expectation. I mean, they all tie together. I'm talking about habits. I'm talking about that in each section, right? And that's because these are all tied together, but they do have they're unique in their own ways. There's things about each one of these ways that can't really be defined or categorized by one of the other ones. So for expectation, this is something that's so ingrained in our lives that we're not really aware of it most of the time, funny enough. And what I wrote, and I wrote this quite a while ago, they're foundational structures in our mind that create boundaries of experience, right? And one of the most common words that we like to use online for lucid dreaming is the word schema. Okay, and a schema is basically a structure, and what happens is over time, your mind, your body creates a structure of experience, and that's where our expectations come from. We expect something to happen because we have this set structure that we've created based on previous experience. So I have a model of the world based on my previous experience. When I go out into the world, I pretty much expect that the same thing's going to happen this time. That's a schema. So when I go outside, I'm going to be able to breathe, right? We don't ever think about that. That's just it's just so ingrained in us that we don't even think about it. You know, when we're walking, you know, we had to spend incredible amounts of effort. You know, I've seen little kids, and I probably did this too, trying to learn how to walk and falling down and crying, not because it hurt, but because they're frustrated that they can't, you know, they're trying to learn how to walk. And they're frustrated because their body won't do what they want, what they want it to do. And we've all had that experience where our body won't do what we want it to do. Whether that's, you know, you have to build the muscle memory, as we call it. That's the body schema, proprioception. There's a lot of scientific work that's gone into body schema in order to assist athletes in kind of being able to learn movements quicker, and also, you know, learn movements to where they're long lasting, and high quality. Like, because a lot of athletics is based on very precise, very specific kinds of movements. And so there's been a lot of study going into schema building so that, you know, you're building that particular movement out in a way that is going to last, that's really solid. It's going to be like a high quality schema, right? So there's a lot of people that have, you know, probably the really good example of this is, you look up on YouTube, Charles Barkley's golf swing. You can see that at some point, some kind of schema got built up in him where it messed up his golf swing. And then eventually he found a golf coach that was able to work with him to reprogram that negative schema. And, you know, he did it through some positives. He actually reprogrammed using some positive schemas. So it's almost like in programming where you have, you need a specific program to fix a specific problem, right? And, you know, you can power through something. A lot of times we just power through things, or, you know, we just, you know, fake it till we make it. But there are certain things that just, you know, we just have to, you know, figure something. We have to find the right solution for it. We have to find that right program that's going to work for us. And in order to do that, a lot of times it's about awareness and being aware of a problem. Because a lot of times we can see that, okay, I'm not getting lucid. Something's wrong. I just don't know what it is. So you actually have to build awareness of the problem before you can even address the problem. I see that a lot. And that's also what this system is designed for. It's designed to say, okay, these are all the pieces of the puzzle. What pieces can you see that are missing from your practice? What of these pieces can you see are suffering that might not be doing so well? And you might be able to work on those particular spots, right? So if you're just an intention master, and like every time okay, I want to dream about Mickey Mouse, and bam, you know, you're going to dream about Mickey Mouse. Like if your intention and your willpower and everything is so good, but then like, you know, you can't remember a dream, even if you try to say, even if you tell yourself to remember a dream, like that kind of stuff. Those little like weird things, like this system is designed to kind of help you figure those out. So the second thing I had here was faith in self for expectation. And the reason why, you know, I was thinking about, you know, maybe I shouldn't include faith, but I think it's important because I think this is a really crucial aspect of expectation. And a lot of people think it's, you know, this is where a lot of delusional thinking comes from. Like, you know, the, what is it? The law of attraction kind of thinking, where you just have to manifest it into reality, right? So that leads to a lot of delusional thinking. So people want to avoid it, but there is power there. There are mechanisms in our mind that are at work there. And, you know, whether you use them intentionally or not, they are there. They're going to be happening in one aspect of your life or another. May as well put them to good use. And so in this case, you know, the inaction is self-affirmation or auto-suggestion. But, you know, I think there was a quote from, I'm going to find it real quick because I really like it. And, let's see. I've got to remember the name of the actor who does Leia. How is it that I Google Leia, but her name is nowhere to be found? That's so weird. Carrie Fisher. Okay. And so she has a quote on faith and confidence that basically, well, it's not on faith and confidence, it's about confidence, but it really, I think it's a good illustration. So stay afraid, but do it anyway. What's important is the action. You don't have to wait to be confident. Just do it, and eventually the confidence will follow. So doing something despite your, you know, facts to the otherwise. You're going to do something despite, you know, things in front of you looking bad, or you're feeling bad, whatever. You know, this says it better than I can, basically, is you don't need confidence to have faith in yourself. And so that's kind of what I want to get across there, is that faith is not the same as confidence. It comes from somewhere else. It's more about, you know, acting towards a certain reality. Like, I want the world to be this way. It may not be this way right now, but I'm going to do the thing that you know, almost a fake it till you make it kind of thing, where it's like, I'm going to act as if things are this way. I'm going to dress as if I have this job, right? And it's kind of an act of faith where you're acting as if a thing is a certain way, even though you don't have the certainty or confidence that it is that way. So for lucid dreaming, how does that apply? And essentially, this works mostly in terms of expectation, where you're trying to set an expectation, and you may not have the confidence that this is going to happen. You may not have the experience, but you're still going to act as if this thing is going to happen. So, you know, that can be difficult to maintain. It can be really difficult to maintain. Because if you do that for a night and you don't have a lucid dream, how are you going to do that the next night, right? Maintaining faith is extremely difficult. Keeping the faith, you know, it's very hard. In a real way, like in a real way that you're continually enacting it, you're continually, you know, using it, and it can be very difficult. But in my opinion, it's an essential part to a consistent lucid dreaming practice. All right, so finally, we have confidence. Confidence, this is the fuel and flavor that permeates all successful ventures into the unknown. So a little bit of an artistic way of saying, basically, this is kind of most people, I think, don't actually start with confidence. I think they use the other ways, and confidence kind of follows along. It's something, it's more of a result than it is something that people actually use on purpose. There are some people that basically use confidence without even trying. And that's, I think, where we see it the most. So at the bottom here, we have, you know, subtypes: positive attitude and knowing. And I also have an analogy there. Again, it's something that, you know, it makes sense to me, may not make sense to other people. And, you know, in terms of, some people just have it. Some people just have the confidence, no matter what. And, you know, there's again a kind of delusional aspect to that, where some people just have this delusional level of confidence that nothing is going to disturb no matter what. And so, you know, confidence can get a bad name because of that. And I, you know, totally get it. But in terms of lucid dreaming, having a positive attitude is so important because it's going to allow you to learn. I've seen this so many times where people will try something one night, and because it didn't work, they think everything they did that night was wrong, right? So even, and this is the thing, is when you're a beginner, you're going to miss progress. You're going to miss it. You're not going to see the progress that you're making because you don't know what you're looking for. And so if you have, you know, a dream where you're questioning something, or something comes into your dream that isn't usually there, or you're in a new environment, or you know, a reality check slips in, you know, these little things that start happening when you're in the beginning stages, a lot of people don't even recognize those little pieces as progress. And so that can really undermine their confidence, because they think everything they did was wrong, and everything they did that night wasn't worth it. And it starts building up this attitude of self-defeat, where if I don't experience this very particular thing that I'm expecting, then I failed. And so you're basically reducing the amount of things that you can do to succeed. Well, that didn't work. Well, that didn't work. Well, that didn't work. But the truth is actually did work. You're just not noticing that it worked. You're not seeing the signs of progress. And so you're actually just slowly cutting off all of these avenues of success, right? And just slowly shrinking and shrinking. And it's a negative, it's a self-defeating cycle, right? And so your confidence just continues to undermine itself over and over again. The other end of that is delusional confidence, where you're doing the wrong thing over and over again, and you're just like, well, eventually it's going to work, you know. I might at that point it's like, well, you know, that might work for some people actually, where they're just spamming something so many times that eventually it works. But it may not be that thing that they're spamming that's actually working, right? It might be that their intention was kind of weak, but they pushed so hard on this particular thing that eventually their intention, you know, the intention got itself figured out and then got kicked in, right? So that's the other thing to watch out for with confidence is you may be so confident that you're doing this thing over and over and over and over again, and then you think, oh, that's the thing that worked, when maybe it wasn't. Maybe the thing that worked is something you're really good at, and so you found it easy, and then the other things sort of caught up, right? So that works for some people, and you know, I think that's fine for them, but I would say don't expect to be that person. Don't expect to be the person that can just push through everything and everything just kind of follows along, right? I think for most people, we have to take some time to evaluate what we're good at, what works for us, and take our own path. So once you actually are able to do that, you develop this kind of knowing, okay? It's to where there's a certain point where you're not really asking yourself questions about things anymore, where it's like, well, I know how that works and I know it's going to work. And that's kind of a different level of confidence, where, like, you know, you've been through it enough to where you're just, you know, and that's kind of like what Carrie Fisher was saying is, you don't have to wait to be confident. You know, that once you do something enough times, then you just know that it's going to be fine. And that's just like this kind of effortless confidence. But in the beginning, there is no confidence, but you can't wait for it. You can't wait to be confident. Okay. That's going to be detrimental as well. So that's confidence. So that is wraps up the 5 ways. Like I said, each one of these things can lead to lucid dreams. If you're 100% confident that you're going to have lucid dreams, you're probably going to have a lucid dream, because you know it's possible, and you 100% believe in yourself. That's really all you need. Okay, expectation. All right, so I am going to just expect that this is going to happen. Right? I have no feeling about it. It's not like, oh, I believe this is gonna like happen or not. I'm expecting it to happen. And you know, under expectation, we have incubation. So I'm just going to incubate this this lucidity, right? And if that's a visualization, we may call that a visualization induced lucid dream, the VILD, right? That sort of thing. Each one of these ways has techniques that people have created. And for me, I like that there's so many different kind of techniques, but it also always bothered me because I felt like the techniques were too constricting. They're too limiting. And I needed a larger system for myself to be able to understand and kind of pick and choose techniques, or kind of in a modular way, plug one in, unplug another. You can do lucid dreaming, you know, exclusively through willpower, right? And you know, that can work. That can work for you. You can just push right through it. You know, if you have a goal orientation, I saw somebody who kind of combined expectation with willpower. Maybe one of the most powerful combinations I've ever seen, where in 3 weeks they were having lucids every night because they were so focused on a particular story they wanted to experience in a lucid dream. And it was that was their goal. They just had that singular goal of, I want to be a waterbender in my lucid dreams. And it was extremely powerful. You know, intention, setting an intention. Some people are just, you know, I know I'm going to lucid dream. I'm going to go to sleep. I just know it, you know, and like once I set my intention, it's just, and that's like intention and confidence, right? Those two combined is also a very powerful combination. So you can kind of see, like, there's even, what I've seen is like people tend to have a couple of them that are really strong, and they combine to really work together really well. And those people have really fast success in lucid dreaming. Irving failing for 8 years straight. That's like, so I'm really interested to hear your feedback on this. Whether, you know, leave me a comment in the comment section, talk to me on the Discord. If this helps you at all with perspective, if it helps you choose different techniques, or set yourself up like a curriculum, a kind of a few different techniques that may strengthen areas that you are seeing that are a little weaker. I'd be really interested to hear that. But yeah, it's like some people, you know, the people that are actually really successful in lucid dreaming, pretty much everybody that I know that's really successful has a natural talent. I've only seen, I don't know if I've seen anybody be a really successful, you know, like lucid dreaming every night. I don't think I've seen anybody do that didn't have a talent. I don't think I've ever seen anybody just like, you know, effort their way into total success. And I think that's because, personally, I think that's because people are kind of funneled into techniques. they're funneled into either mild, mnemonic induced, or wild. And it's always wake back to beds. It's always reality checks, wake back to beds, dream journaling, right? I mean, it's, why do you even need techniques? You know, you're just doing the same thing. And then we have all these kind of, you know, techniques around the edges that we use that people kind of just put on for a little while and then try something else, right? But as long as you have, you know, your dream journaling and your reality checking and your wake back to beds, you know, you can swap out everything else, right? That's kind of how that goes. And I just think it's total BS. I think that people have particular strengths and weaknesses, and they can play to those strengths and weaknesses. And I don't think that we can just say the brain works this way, therefore lucid dreaming works this way. Now, maybe eventually one day we'll be able to do that. I just don't think that's the way things work. I think that everybody has to find their own particular way of doing lucid dreaming, and that forcing everybody into this, you know, kind of rote, you do these 3 things and then techniques and you'll be fine. I don't think that's a good way for a lot of people. So hopefully this helps. You know, just let it marinate in your mind. Think about it, see if it, you know, does it make you think about lucid dreaming in a different way? Does it make you realize something that you may not have seen before? Can you see how techniques may fall into one of these categories, or how multiple categories may apply to a single technique, single approach, right? If you go into Exploring the World of Lucid Dreams, Stephen LaBerge, you'll find everything there, but obviously he's focused on the mild technique. Most of the research has been focused on that. And it's all around memory and mental memory, right? Well, what if somebody's memory is better using physical means, like something creative, or, you know, maybe they're more of a kinesthetic learner. Maybe they're more of an auditory learner. You know, when we have a majority of the population that learns things a certain way, and we've basically organized our society for people to learn in a very specific way, the mild, I think, is in line with that particular way of learning. Mental, conceptual, you know, memory, right? We're always memorizing things. We're always, and I know like memory is bigger than this, but that ties into kind of how society has organized itself, right? But there's so much variety in how we work that there's, you know, I think this is a big reason why so many people fail at lucid dreaming, because they're trying to fit into that single box. And there's so much more to experience. There's so much, like, you know, maybe you should drink a certain kind of tea before you go to sleep every night to prepare yourself mentally, but not that the tea is going to help you physiologically, but that it's this way of centering yourself around an intention and focusing yourself before you go to sleep around this particular act that's involving your body and your senses and everything, right? And people think about that and they're like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Well, right, because you never really do that, right? But maybe that's the thing that's going to really help you. And that, you know, that's a kind of criticality, awareness of body. It's mixing in your intention. So the question there is, how do I diagnose myself? And that's going to be over the next several videos. I'm going to go into detail in each particular section, and I'm going to explain how do I diagnose myself? How do I figure out if my awareness is suffering or if my willpower is suffering? How do I figure out what kind of person I am? How do I figure out what works best for me? Right? Like, I think that's a place a lot of people are. And when they first come to lucid dreaming, they're like, well, what's the best technique? It's like, well, what kind of person are you, right? You have to, how do you match up what is best for you, and how do you match that up, right? So just like maybe a personal trainer might, figure out, okay, you've got this kind of body, you would do best with these kind of lifts at this weight, at this intensity. I'm not going to be your personal trainer, but I can set you up with certain information that can help you make those determinations, so that you can figure out what would be best for you to learn lucid dreaming. All right. So that concludes my summary of the 5 ways. Took me a little longer than I thought, as usual. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. And happy to answer any questions. All right, looks like try to get Maury in here real quick. Got my hammock set up out on my patio today. I'm gonna go out there and relax for a little bit after this. And I will be making some cut down. I'm gonna leave the live stream up, probably edit down the live stream a little bit, but then just see if I can make some videos out of this using the audio. Which means I'll have to download the... Yeah, I should have been recording myself. Oops. So I'll wait for a few more minutes to see if anybody has any questions. In the meantime, I guess, I didn't really kind of give a history of where these 5 ways came from. Basically, I learned how to lucid dream when I was 6 years old, and I learned intuitively by trial and error, trying different things, just random, I think it is just kind of the way that I am wired, basically. And I just try things because out of curiosity. So, I'll, I don't know if you can pop your ears, like when you go in a plane and your ears plug up. Some people can just like at will pop their ears. Well, if you hold it like that, if you like hold and then you make a noise, it's like really loud. It's like you're almost like you're listening like inside your head. Right? And so you get this weird, like your voice is really loud, right? It's almost like you're listening to the inside of your head. So, that kind of thing. Like I used to do that all the time. Experimenting with like different noises, listening to like, what does it sound like when I swallow or move my tongue or like that? Because you can hear that stuff really well when you do that. Like, so like playing around with just curiosity and playing around and seeing what happens when I do things. That's how I learned. And that's kind of how I learn as a person overall. I like trying every little thing to learn what it does rather than going in a specific direction to a specific goal. Right? Or like, a lot of time, most people, I think, in conversation want to have a point. Like, let's have an ending point. They kind of want the conversation to follow an arc, like a narrative structure, right? And kind of ebbs and flows and all this. And whereas I'm the kind of person where I'm just all over the place all the time, and I'll just go into the randomest thing and then come out somewhere else that just seems completely unrelated, and that sort of thing. It's so, you know, I'd be laying on my bed staring at the wall, or you know, so I'm staring at the wall and I see on the texturing on the wall that the shapes look like continents. So I'm like trying to figure out the continents, and then I notice as I'm getting more tired, my vision is starting to become a little blurry and the shapes are starting to kind of wobble a little bit, right? So, oh, I wonder if I can make it wobble more. You know, I wonder maybe I can make it do this. So then that gets you into hypnagogia and curiosity. All right, well, thanks everybody for showing up. I'm going to cut it there. And I hope that was helpful for everybody. And I'll see you next time.